Hey, what is going on, guys? So today we're checking out my entire PlayArts Kai Final Fantasy VII Remake and AC figure collection. So let's take a look at what we have here. Okay, so as you can see, I've got all of my Final Fantasy VII figures displayed in one detailed cabinet. So now I have made a video on every single figure here, so if you guys want to check those videos out, then they will be on the channel. Okay, so first up, let's begin with the remake figures. And first up we have Aerith. So yes, this is such a nice figure. I would say this is almost the best remake figure that PlayArts Kai have made. You know, it's just so nicely sculpted, really nicely painted, and it's a much better figure compared to the original Crisis Core version of the character. I would say definitely pick up this figure, you won't be disappointed. It's just a, such a nice piece all around, and I'm really happy that we have the basket of flowers as an accessory. We've been waiting for that for such a long time, so I'm just very happy that PlayArts Kai included that. Anyhow, inside the back we have Ruse. I'm not really a big fan of Ruse, and he's probably my least favorite character from the remake, but seeing as I've got Rufus and Reno, I decided why not, and he's a pretty decent figure, but I wouldn't recommend this figure over, say, Sephiroth or like Tifa. He's definitely a side figure that you would pick up last. And down here we have Rufus Shinra. Another figure which turned out super nice. I love the head sculpt, it's a very crisp and clean sculpt. But I've got to say, I do love his design from the new remake. For all these cloak pieces. It's a very elegant design, and I do think it's much better compared to the AC version of Rufus. So yeah, very happy with how it turned out. Next up here we have the one-winged angel himself, Sephiroth. I mean, it is a pretty nice figure. It does have some issues, which I'm sure you guys know all about, but I would say overall it turned out pretty good, and I still like the AC version of Sephiroth a lot better, but I would say this figure is much more detailed, and it's got a much sharper sculpt and much better paint job. Overall, I would say if you guys don't have the AC version of Sephiroth, then definitely pick up this remake version. It is a very nice figure. Next up, we have Reno. Guys, I love this figure so much. I cannot recommend this figure enough. This was probably my most wanted PlayArts Kai Final Fantasy VII figure that I wanted them to make. I'm just so happy that we finally have a new Reno, and I couldn't be happier with him. It's got such a nice head sculpt, such a nice paint job. I love this extra faceplates with the tongue sticking out. It's just perfect for the character and shows off his personality. So yeah, I'm very happy with the Reno. Guys, you gotta pick him up. So down here we have the version 2 of Cloud Strife, which I would say this is probably the best Cloud Strife that PlayArts Kai have ever made. I mean, that head sculpt is just amazing. Especially the hairpiece. That's what I love most about the figure, how they've sculpted the hair. So as for the body piece, it's pretty much the exact same as the first release that they made quite some time ago. So yeah, the main focus here is the head sculpts. And next up here we have Tifa. A very controversial piece, which once again, I'm sure you guys know all about that, so I'm not going to get into it. But I would say the figure looks much better in your hands. I'm actually very happy with this figure, and I do like it quite a lot. I think the head sculpt looks pretty good. Seeing this figure in photos and videos just won't do this figure justice. You need to see it in your hand to fully appreciate the figure. And so down here we have Red 13, and this is such a nice figure. This is probably another one of my favorite figures out of the entire remake line. He just turned out so nice. I mean, look at the detailing here in the eye and the hairpiece in the face. It's just crazy detail. I'm just so happy that PlayArts Kai finally remade this character. The original Red 13, which is down here, it's probably one of the rarest PlayArts Kai figures ever made. You're gonna have such a hard time trying to find that figure. Okay, so moving down here to the AC figures, and let's take a look at what we have here. So first up, we have the Crisis Core version of Aerith. I mean, it's not a bad figure, I still like this figure quite a lot, but as I mentioned before, now that we have the new remake figure of Aerith, it's a much better figure. I just wouldn't recommend this Crisis Core version of Aerith, at least not anymore. And so in the back, we have the AC version of Cloud Strife. This is such a nice figure. It's probably one of my favorite figures in my entire collection. I mean, I've had this figure for such a long time now, and it's such a nostalgic piece for me. I'll just never get rid of this figure. I just love it so much. And next up here we have the AC version of Sephiroth, which I would say is probably a much better figure than the remake figure of Sephiroth. Both are nice, but I just think the head sculpt is a lot more menacing on this AC version. He looks so much more evil, and I love the fact that we have the one wing, which is just an amazing accessory, which only comes with this AC version of Sephiroth. So that is a massive bonus. I would say definitely pick up this AC version of Sephiroth over the remake. It's just a much better figure, at least in my opinion. And so down here we have Yifi. This is such an old figure. This is one of the first figures that PlayArts Kai ever made from AC. I think it came out around maybe 2013, so this is one of the original PlayArts Kai Final Fantasy VII figures. Which, you know, it still holds up pretty well, and it's still one of my favorites. I love this accessory of the hand holding the materia. And so here's the AC version of Tifa. So this is my all-time favorite design of Tifa. I just love this outfit so much. With the black and white color scheme, it just looks so good on the character. I mean, the head sculpt isn't the best. Of course, the remake head sculpt is a lot better. But I don't know, the head sculpt never bothered me about this figure. I just love the figure so much. The head sculpt didn't detract from the figure. But yeah, just check out all the details. It's still a very nice figure. I just really hope that PlayArts Kai finally remake these AC figures someday. I think they could do a much better job. And so moving down here to the rest of the figures, and first up we have the Crisis Core Zack. Another very rare figure. I would say this is also one of the rarest PlayArts Kai Final Fantasy VII figures that have ever been made. It would be so good to have an updated version of this figure. But here's how he looks. It is one of my favorites. I love the head sculpts. I know some people don't like the head sculpts, but in my opinion, I think it's perfect. And I love the design of the Buster Sword. It's really nicely done. And back here we have the remake of Barrett. So this is the version 2. And this is such a nice figure. This is by far the best figure of Barrett that has ever been made. It's got such a clean head sculpt, such a nice paint job, and it's very faithful to how he looks in the new remake. Yeah, very nice piece. I would say if you guys don't already own a Barrett, then definitely pick this one up. You guys won't be disappointed. Okay, so moving on here, we have the first release of Rufus. Yeah, this is actually the first figure that PlayArts Kai ever made from Final Fantasy VII AC. It's such an outdated figure. It's super blocky, super thick. I just don't recommend this figure at all unless you guys want to pick up the entire AC line. Otherwise, I would definitely recommend picking up the new remake figure of Rufus. And so right over here we have the first release of the remake Cloud Strife, which came with the first class edition of the game. I mean, it's not a bad figure, but it's just the fact that this figure is a re-release of the figure which we already had. Because a lot of people already had this figure, so there was just no reason why they should have included this in the first class edition. But anyhow, in the back we have the Dirge of Cerberus, Vincent Valentine, which is one of the most badass figures that PlayArts Kai have ever made. I mean, look at the sculpting work in here. Look at the paint job. This is by far one of my favorite Final Fantasy VII figures, and I highly recommend him. Okay, and so moving down here to the final shelf. And first up we have the original Red 13, which is still one of my favorite figures. And as I mentioned before, it's one of the rarest PlayArts Kai Final Fantasy VII figures. And right behind him there I've got a Cat Sith, which comes with the Sid Highwinds. I mean, I don't recommend this figure because you're going to spend a lot of time, money and efforts on trying to hunt this figure down. So I would just say pick up the new remake of Red 13, which is probably a much better figure overall. And so right over here we have the Sid Highwinds. So once again, he's not one of the more popular characters. I would say pick up a different figure before you pick up Sid, unless you guys are a big fan of the character, or if you guys want the Cat Sith. But otherwise I would say probably pick up a different figure. So right behind him here we have the first release of Vincent Valentine, which is also a very old figure. I think this figure may have came out around 2013, around the same time as Yifi. So yeah, this is one of the original PlayArt Kai Final Fantasy VII AC figures. It's a pretty outdated figure, I would say, but it still holds up pretty well. So right over here we have also the first release of Barrett Wallace in this pretty funky design. I mean, I don't even know what to say here. What were they smoking when they made this Barrett figure? It's just so crazy. And last up here we have the Cloud Strife, which comes with Fenrir. So yeah, it's pretty much the exact same figure as the first release of Cloud Strife, which is up here. Apart from the fact that he comes with this extra head sculpts with the goggles. So yeah, pretty much the same figure. Another very nice piece, which I don't think I'll get rid of anytime soon. And of course we have the first class edition, Hardy Daytona, and the Fenrir. I just don't have the space to display these figures inside the Detolf, so for now I'm just going to keep them in the box. But just want to let you guys know that I do have these figures, just in case you're wondering. So yeah guys, that is pretty much my entire collection. I hope you guys like it. Hope you guys like my setup. So I do think I have all the figures apart from the variants, but for the most part I do have all the main characters. So yes guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. As I mentioned before, I do have a video on every single figure here. So if you guys want to check it out, then it will be on the channel. So thank you guys for watching. Have a great day, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Alright, take it easy guys.